The Dirty Dozen. In some respects, one can imagine a contemporary audience not feeling totally enamoured or even maybe dismissive of The Dirty Dozen. Oh, it's just one of these American World War II movies. He's one of these action movies, Where Eagles Dare, The Longest Day. Yeah, so what? No, The Dirty Dozen is more than that. We have one of these guerrilla vanguard, vaguely kind of rough action films. It's not about epic set pieces and elaborate lean-esque pretensions. There's this distillation of a more B-movie sort of exploitation, sort of just... Well, certainly when the action is employed toward the end and building up to it, it's kind of... It's employing the charisma and appeal of actors occupying their characters via charisma solely, that old Hollywood method of performing. Even John Cassavetes, who's a more considered and theoretical, let's say, actor, otherwise he's performing within this mold, or he's employing one of his strange applications of muscle memory and childhood trauma, or whatever they do there, special little independent acting schools, in order to get at what comes across as that old Hollywood John Wayne-esque approach of you just occupy your character via charisma. But The Dirty Dozen, I've heard it complained that this film's just 2 hours of build-up or whatever, and then the action sequence. But the build-up is entertaining as the action sequence. The action sequence maybe slightly more so because or at least I like seeing the film medium employed so assertively. Although what's magnificent about the proceedings of the film is it's such a gloriously anarchic and kind of proto-punk phenomenon, The Dirty Dozen. It's these individuals who have an intense hatred and contempt of authority have grown to despise the United States Army, and them being used against the Nazis is useful because their hatred of the Nazis is because it reminds them of the American military system. There's something so profoundly anti-authority and kind of brilliantly countercultural, and yet with this kind of conservative appeal. It's meeting that the kind of id of human feeling, and that is a very... Dirty Dozen is occupying both of these places, I think. That kind of hardcore punk, embrace of the urge versus this more kind of ruthless appreciation of order and power for its own sake. Although I think the former is a more logical application of, say, the politics of The Dirty Dozen. It's something akin to ramshackle, thus it's more akin to the politics of the good, the bad, and the ugly than, say, those of High Noon. One of the greatest films ever made, I think. Well, one can enjoy it as one of those World War II action films, shamelessly. If you want to be in that world. There's also this implication underneath The Dirty Dozen that, the United States was simply the lesser of two evils, and otherwise this Dirty Dozen might just as well as have carried out its activities against an American hegemony. I find that fascinating as all hell.